Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man walah, wa ba'd. So after thanking and praising Allah wa ta'ala for what He has conferred upon us of favors that cannot be counted and enumerated, we'd like to express our gratitude to our brethren here at Masjid Tawheed wa Sunnah in Durham, North Carolina, as this is my second home. It's my first home Islamically, but it's my second home in life. Wanted to express our gratitude to our brothers and sisters here at this community. My topic today, which you all are going to speak about, something which we heard Sheikh Anwar touch upon in his talk towards the end of his talk, and that is the Mustamayat al-Shar'iyya li Ahlus-Sunnah wal Jama'ah. We want to speak about the legislative names of Ahlus-Sunnah wal Jama'ah. The legislative names of Ahlus-Sunnah wal Jama'ah. The Arabs, they say Ahlul Shay, the people of a thing. The Ahl of a thing, they are a khas an-nas bih. They are the most specific of the people to that thing. The people of something are the most specific of the people to that thing which they are the people of. So we say, for Lugha, for example, Ahlul Rajul, the people of a man, meaning his family, his wife, his children, they are his Ahl, they are his family. We say Ahlul Bayt, the people of a household, meaning those who live inside of their particular bayts. We say Ahlul Islam, they are those who yadinu bihi, they take that as their religion. They take Islam as their religion. We say Ahlul Madhab, for example, the people of a particular madhab, those who traverse upon that madhab and that methodology, taking that as their path and their religion. And this is because they are the most specific of the people to that thing. So when we say Ahlus-Sunnah, we're speaking about those who are the most specific of the people in relation to the Sunnah and the adherence to it, and to them clinging to it and following it and holding fast to that in statements, in actions, and creed or belief. This term Ahlus-Sunnah, over the years, we find that it came to be a legislative terminology. Ahlus-Sunnah over time came to be a legislative terminology, and historically it bore two meanings. Historically, the term Ahlus-Sunnah, it bore two meanings. The first meaning is that of a general meaning. It was a general meaning. And what entered into that is all of those who ascribe to Islam, with the exception of the Shia. In general, it referred to all of those who ascribe to Islam, with the exception of Rafidah, the Shia. And the more specific meaning, and it's the second meaning that it bore, the more specific meaning, it is more restricted and tighter than that. It is those people who are the people of the pure Sunnah. The people of the pure Sunnah that has been purified from bid'ah, and by way of this more specific meaning, then those who go outside of that are all of Ahlul Bid'ah. All of Ahlul Bid'ah go outside of that term, Ahlul Sunnah. Whether it be Shia or Sufiyah or other than them, from the people of desires and innovation. Khawarij, Jahmiyyah, Murji'ah, all of them exit and go outside of this term, and the meaning of the term, Ahlul Sunnah. And it is by way of the second, more specific definition that Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, he mentioned, Lafdhu Ahlus Sunnah yuradu bihi man athbata khilafati thalatha, that Ahlus Sunnah, it refers to those who affirm the khilafah of the first three, meaning Abu Bakr, Umar, and Uthman, because of Rafidah they don't. So Ahlus Sunnah, it bears the meaning of those who affirm the khilafah of those three, and what enters into that is all of the groups with the exception of Rafidah. وَقَدْ يُرَادُ بِهِ, and this is the first meaning. Now he goes into the second meaning, the more specific meaning. وَقَدْ يُرَادُ بِهِ أَهْلُ الْحَدِيثِ وَالسُّنَّةِ الْمَحْضَةِ. He says, and what is intended by it as well is the people of Hadith. The people of Hadith and the pure Sunnah. فَلَا يَدْخُلُ فِيهِ إِلَّا, so no one enters into that term except those who affirm the sifat of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, and they say that the Quran is not created, and that Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala will be seen in the hereafter, and they affirm the divine decree, and other than that, from the well-known affairs with Ahl Hadith and Sunnah. Intaha kalamahu alayhi rahmatullah. So we see Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah alayhi rahmatullah clarifying the general meaning that we mentioned, as well as the specific and more restricted meaning, which would exclude, by way of that, all of Ahl Bid'ah. Now, so therefore Ahlus-Sunnah, they are the companions of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Why? Because they took from him directly the usul of the creed of the religion, just as they took from him directly all of their affairs of ibadah and worship. So therefore they are the most knowledgeable of the people regarding the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and they are those who follow it the most. And they follow it more so than those who came after them. Ahlus-Sunnah also, they are those who follow them. They follow the companions in excellence all the way up until the day of recompense, in every time and every place. And at the head of them, Ahl Hadith wa Athar. So since this term, it bears this meaning, Ahlus-Sunnah wal Jama'ah, it bears this praiseworthy meaning, you find that many of the groups throughout history tried to claim it for themselves. Even to the point that I saw a book by the Shia Rafida, where they said the book was titled Shia, the True Ahlus-Sunnah. Shia, the True Ahlus-Sunnah. The audacity of them. So everyone tries to claim this term. But as the Arabs, they say, everyone claims an attachment to Layla, but Layla doesn't affirm that for any of them. The affair is not about claims, ikhwa. The affair is about realities. What is the reality of what these people are upon? If their reality is that of the Sunnah, the reality is that of the way of the Salaf, then they are Ahlus-Sunnah. If their reality is other than that, it doesn't matter what they call themselves. They're not from Ahlus-Sunnah. They're not from Ahlus-Sunnah. Now, and so you found that historically, once these innovations began to spread and deviations began to spread amongst the people of truth were in need of distinguishing themselves from the various groups and parties. And they needed to manifest that they were upon clarity and were upon the truth, and they were not upon that which these other groups were upon. So they came to be known by various names. Some of them you heard as Sheikh Anwar mentioned, Hafidhahullah, at the end of his talk. They became known, مثلا, as Ahlus-Sunnah wal Jama'ah, Al-Firqa al-Najiyah. They became known as the Ta'if al-Mansura, Al-Hadith wal-Athar, As-Salafiyun, and other than that from the names which they were known by. All of these names refer to one and the same group. And the one who reflects upon these names, if you think about and you reflect upon the names of Ahlus-Sunnah wal Jama'ah, all of the names which they are called by, you'll find that these names all indicate Islam in its totality. All of the names indicate and point to Islam in its totality. So some of the names, there is a text to indicate it, and it is extracted from a text. And some of the names of Ahlus-Sunnah, it indicates and points to their reality. Now, it points to their reality. And that their reality, it is in opposition to the reality of the various groups of deviation and bid'ah. For the groups of deviation and bid'ah, if you look at their names, then their names either go back to an individual, like who? The Jahmiyyah. The Jahmiyyah is an ascription to who? Jahm ibn Safwan. Likewise, you have, mathalan, the Kullabiyah. The Kullabiyah is a description to who? Muhammad ibn Kullab. You have, mathalan, the Karramiyah, an ascription to who? The Karramiyah, Muhammad ibn Karram. The Ash'ariyah, an ascription to who? Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari. You have the Zaydiyah, an ascription to who? Huh? La. Zayd ibn Ali ibn Hussein. Now, so all of their names is going to go back to either an ascription to a specific person, or their names will go back to an ascription to the bid'ah which they were upon. It'll go back to the bid'ah which they are upon, like Rafida, an ascription to Rafd, their rejection of the imama of Abu Bakr and Umar, or an ascription to their rejection of one of the grandsons of Ali. Now, you have مثلا the Nawasib, and Nasiba, an ascription to what? An ascription to and Nasiba and Nawasib. This is an ascription to the bid'ah of an Nasab, or standing in opposition to the household of the Messenger of Allah alayhi wasallam. Al-Rafida, they refer to Ahlus-Sunnah as Nasiba or Nawasib. And of course, Ahlus-Sunnah is free of this term, because Ahlus-Sunnah is at the forefront of those who have love for the household of the Messenger of Allah alayhi wasallam. But Nawasib, they are those who have enmity for Ahlul Bayt. You have Al-Qadariyah. Al-Qadariyah, this is an inscription to what? To the denial of Al-Qadr, to this bid'ah of the denial of the divine decree. You have the Sufiyah, an inscription to the wearing of wool, because this is what they were known by. At that time, they were known to wear wool garments, believing that this was a sign of piety and righteousness. Al-Batiniyah as well. Al-Batiniyah, those who claim that the text have a zahir and a batin. They have the legislative text, Kitab and Sunnah, it has an outward meaning, then it has a hidden meaning that only the elite know. The Murji'ah, an ascription to the bid'ah of irja', of removing actions from the definition of iman. Or you have their names that indicates the reason for their departure from the main body of the Muslims, like Al-Khawarij, like the Khawarij, an ascription to them departing from the main body of the Muslims. Likewise, the group known as Al-Mu'tazila, it's an ascription to Al-I'tizal, and the withdrawal of their figurehead Wasil ibn Ata from the gathering of Hasan al-Basri. But the names of Ahlus-Sunnah are different. The names of Ahlus-Sunnah are different. And the difference between these names and the names of Ahlus-Sunnah were pointed out in some of the speech of Sheikh Bakr Abu Zayd. He mentions that when these groups appeared that differed from Ahlus-Sunnah wal Jama'ah, then you found that names emerged that distinguished the Sunnah and the Jama'ah of the Muslims from the various groups. And these names negated deviation, and these names negated the following of ahwa. He says, whether these names are affirmed by way of a legislative text, such as the term al-Jama'ah, it comes in the Hadith, they are the Jama'ah, or al-Firqa al-Najiyah, or al-Ta'if al-Mansura, or the names may be something which indicates their balance and their equity and following of the Sunnah in the face of Ahl Bid'ah. And due to this, you find that they had a strong connection to those who came before them. So they were referred to as Salaf, or the Salafis, Ahl Hadith, Ahl Athar, Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. And all of these names differ from the names of Ahl Bid'ah and deviation from a number of perspectives. I'm going to mention these points. So take these points, inshallah ta'ala. The first way that the names of Ahl Sunnah differs from the names of Ahl Bid'ah and deviation is that the names of Ahl Sunnah did not separate them from the Ummah of Al-Islam. The names of Ahl Sunnah is not something that will separate them from the Ummah of Al-Islam, from its inception all the way up until this time in which we live, upon the methodology of prophethood. So those names are names that will include and encompass all of the Muslims in general. Now, secondly, is that the names include all of Al-Islam. The names will include all of Al-Islam, such as the book and the Sunnah. So they did not specify themselves by way of names that will depart them and take them away from the book of Allah and the Sunnah of the Messenger of Allah alayhi wasallam. Thirdly, is that amongst the names of Ahlus-Sunnah are those names which are affirmed by way of the authentic Sunnah, and from them there are names that were not given to them except to oppose the people of bid'ah. From them there are names that there's a text to indicate, and amongst them there are names which were not given to them except in opposition to the people of bid'ah. Now, and so when you found that innovation began to spread, for example, when innovation began to spread, and what is the opposite of innovation? What is the opposite of bid'ah? So when innovation began to spread, they became known as Ahlus-Sunnah. They became known as Ahlus-Sunnah. When people began to rule and judge by opinions, they came to be known by Ahlul Hadith, Ahlul Athar, because they ruled and judged by the Hadith and the Athar, not by opinions. Now, when people began to depart from what the Salaf were upon, then Ahlus-Sunnah attached themselves to the Salaf, and they came to be known as Salafis. They came to be known as Ahlul Hadith, Ahlus-Sunnah wal Jama'ah, and so on. Fourthly, that when you look at the names of Ahlus-Sunnah wal Jama'ah, you find that their wala, their bara, their love, and their hatred is not for a single individual, as evidenced by their names. But their love, their hatred, their wala, and their bara is based upon nothing but the book and the sunnah. It's based upon nothing but the book and the sunnah, and not an individual. Fifthly, the fifth point, the fifth difference between the names of Ahlus-Sunnah and the names of Ahlul Bid'ah is that the names of Ahlus-Sunnah do not call them to have fanaticism for an individual or a particular place or a particular opinion. Sixth, that these names in and of themselves are not names which will lead to bid'ah. The names will not lead to bid'ah, nor to sin, nor to fanaticism for a specific person, nor a particular slogan. So now we're going to look at and examine some of these names. Firstly, the first name is that of Ahlus-Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Ahlus-Sunnah wal Jama'ah. And of course, this title, this term is well known. And Ahlus-Sunnah, they are known by way of this due to their connection to the Sunnah. So we say Ahlus-Sunnah wal Jama'ah, the people of Sunnah and the main body, or the people of Sunnah and unity and togetherness. And perhaps Ahlus-Sunnah is used by itself. And perhaps we may also hear Ahlul Jama'ah, the people of the Jama'ah. Now, Ibn Taymiyyah mentioned, فإن السنة مقرونة بالجماعة كما أن البدعة مقرونة بالفرقة. The Sunnah is coupled with unity and togetherness, just as bid'ah is coupled with division and separation. فيقال أهل السنة والجماعة كما يقال أهل البدعة والفرقة. So we say the people of Sunnah and the Jama'ah as an indication that Sunnah brings togetherness, Sunnah brings unity. We say Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, and we say Ahlul Bid'ah wal Furqa. We say the people of innovation and splitting or dividing and separation. This is what it brings. And from the reasons why they became known by this term, Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, are two main reasons. Firstly, due to their clinging to the Sunnah of the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, to the point that they came to be its people, as we heard at the beginning, that those who are the most specific to a particular thing, they are its ahl. They are its ahl. Now, the one who does something the most, they are the people of that thing. In opposition to the other groups, they cling to the opinions of people, they cling to their desires, they cling to the statements of their figureheads. So they are not attached to the Sunnah, rather they are attached to their innovations. They are attached to their opinions and their slogans and the likes of that. or their imams, their leaders, and so on and so forth. The second is that they are the people of the jama'ah due to the fact that they gather together. They come together, they make ijtima' ala al-haq. They come together based upon the truth. They don't come together based upon neighborhood. They don't come together based upon fanaticism to a particular person, personality worship, or none of that. What brings them together is their unity upon the truth, not just for the sake of gathering, not for the sake of numbers, nothing but unity upon the haq, as the Sheikh Muhammad ibn Salih al-Uthaymeen has mentioned. Now, Ibn Taymiyyah said in defining Ahlus-Sunnah, هم المتمسكون بكتاب الله وسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم. They are those who hold fast to the book of Allah and to the sunnah of his messenger عليه السلام. وما اتفق عليه السابقون الأولون من المهاجرين والأنصار. And that which the first and foremost from the muhajirun and the ansar were agreed upon, and as well as those who follow them in excellence unto the day of recompense. انتهى كلامه عليه رحمة الله. The second name, Ahlul al-Hadith, the people of Hadith, Ahlul Hadith. From the names which they are known by is Al-Hadith. And this name comes abundantly within the speech of some of the Imams of the Salaf, such as Ibn Taymiyyah and other than him, from the people of knowledge, before him and after him. They will mention Ahlul Hadith, as well as they mention Ahlus-Sunnah synonymously. They will mention these terms synonymously whenever mentioning the creed of the people of truth. They would mention these two terms interchangeably. So you have, mathalan, the great Imam As-Sabuni, Abu Uthman As-Sabuni. What's his book of Aqidah called? Imam Abu Uthman As-Sabuni. Creed of the Salaf, Ashab al-Hadith. The creed of the Salaf, Aqidah al-Salaf, Ashab al-Hadith. He mentioned inside of his book, Inna Ashab al-Hadith, المتمسكين بكتاب والسنة حفظ الله أحياءهم ورحم أمواتهم يشهدون لله تعالى بالوحدانية وللرسول بالرسالة والنبوة. He said that the people of Hadith, those who hold fast to the book and the sunnah, may Allah preserve the living amongst them and have mercy upon the dead. They testify for Allah Ta'ala as having wahdaniyah, as having oneness. And they testify for the Messenger alayhi salam as having prophethood and messengership. Up until the point where he said, وَقَدْ أَعَاذَ اللَّهُ أَهْلَ السُّنَّةِ مِنَ التَّحْرِيفِ وَالتَّكْيِيفِ وَالتَّشْبِيهِ وَمَنَّ عَلَيْهِمْ بِالتَّعْرِيفِ وَالتَّفْهِيمِ. He said, and Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, He conferred, He protected the people of Sunnah from a tahrif. Tahrif is distorting the meanings of the sifat of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, or questioning or delving into the howness of them, or a tashbih, likening them to the attributes of the creation. And He favored them and blessed them with a ta'rif wa tafhim, with proper knowledge and understanding of the affair. So we see him inside of this short passage. At the beginning of it, he referred to them as Ahlu what? Al-Hadith. And at its end he said what? Ahlus-Sunnah. Showing how the people of the Salaf, they would use these terms interchangeably. Ibn Taymiyyah, he mentioned Madhhab al-Salaf, Ahl Hadith, Sunnah wal Jama'ah. He said the madhhab of the Salaf, the people of Hadith, Sunnah and Jama'ah. Now, so what is intended by Ahl Hadith in the books of creed of Salaf is Ahl Sunnah, is Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Ibn Taymiyyah likewise said, وَنَحْنُ لَا نَعْنِي بِأَهْلِ الْحَدِيثِ الْمُقْتَصِرِينَ عَلَى سِمَاعِهِ. He said, we don't intend, when we say the term Ahl Hadith, we don't intend those who just listen to narrations. He says, or those who simply write the narration and report them. Rather, we intend by way of them all of those who have the most right to this term, due to their preservation of it, and their knowledge of it, and their understanding of it, outwardly and inwardly, and their following that, outwardly and inwardly, likewise the people of the Quran. The third name that we're going to look at is that of Al-Athariyya or Ahlul Athar, Al-Athariyah or Ahlu Al-Athar, the people of the narrations. This term is likewise utilized much within the speech of the people of knowledge. And they intend by way of that the people of Sunnah and Hadith. Ibn Abi Hatim al-Razi, he mentioned, aside of the creed of the two Razi Imams, he said, مذهبنا واختيارنا اتباع رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وأصحابه والتابعين والتمسك بمذهب أهل الأثر مثل أبي عبد الله أحمد ibn Hanbal. He said, our madhab, and that which we choose for ourselves is to follow the Messenger of Allah and his companions and the tabi'een, and to hold fast to the madhab of Ahlul Athar. Hold fast to the madhab of Ahlul Athar, such as, he mentioned amongst them, Abu Abdullah Ahmad ibn Hanbal. Now, he said in another place in the same book, وَعَلَامَةُ أَهْلِ الْبِرَعِ الْوَقِيعَ فِي أَهْلِ الْأَثَرِ, the sign of the people of innovation, and this goes all the way back to the time of the Salaf, that the alama, the sign of the people of innovation, is revilement of Ahlul Athar. You still find us up until the day in which we live. They have all types of evil statements to say about the Salafis. And from the amazing affairs is that the people of the Quraysh, the pagans of the Quraysh, when they wanted to insult the Messenger of Allah والسلام, at least they had enough sense to use terms that were actually insulting. At least they had enough sense to use terms like sahir, kadhab, terms that were actually demeaning and insulting. But these people today, they take terms which are not at their asl insulting, and they turn them into insulting terms. So they call you a Wahhabi. Okay, the term is not really insulting to begin with, but you want to use it as an insult. Okay. They call you Madkhali. They call you all types of names which they call you as a means of revilement and belittlement. Now, this is the sign of the people of Bid'ah, that they revile Ahl Athar. And the sign of the Zanadiqa, Tasmiyatuhum Ahlus-Sunnah Hashawiyah. The sign of the heretics is them referring to Ahlus-Sunnah as worthless ones, Hashawiyah. The sign of the Qadariyah is them referring to Ahl Athar. You see them going back and forth. Ahl Athar, Ahl Sunnah, Ahl Athar, Ahl Sunnah. The sign of the Qadariyah is them calling Ahl Athar Mujbira, people who hold to Jabr, yani, hold that the mankind are forced and compelled to do what they say and what they do, which we don't even believe that. The sign of the Murji'ah is them referring to Ahl Sunnah, again going back and forth, as Mukhalifa. They call them Mukhalifa and they call them Nuqsaniyah. They call them Nuqsaniyah. Why do they call them Nuqsaniyah? Why do they call Ahl Sunnah Nuqsaniyah? We're speaking about the Murji'ah. Who knows? They call Ahl Sunnah Nuqsaniyah. Because the Murji'ah, their deviation is in what? Is in the affair of Iman. The affair of Iman. Ahl Sunnah, what is our description of Iman? What is our definition of Iman? Iman is what? Look. The definition of Iman. It is al-i'tiqad bil-qalb. Believe in the heart. Testify with the tongue. Action of the limbs. What else? It increase with obedience and it. So they call you Nuqsaniyah because you say that Iman can go down. They don't say Iman can go down. Nothing that a person does can decrease his Iman, according to them. Right? So they call Ahl Sunnah Nuqsaniyah, people who think that Iman can go down. Now, we say what the Quran says. Alamat al-Rafida, the sign of the Rafida is referring to Ahl Sunnah as an-Nasiba. And that's what we mentioned earlier. People who have enmity for Ahl Bayt, which is likewise not true. Now, this term, you'll find it coming a lot from the Imams such as Abu Nasr as-Sidzi, likewise Ibn Taymiyyah uses it, likewise as-Safarini uses it, and other than them from the people of knowledge. Now, and what is intended by al-Athar, when they say this term, it is a synonym for al-Hadith, the people of Hadith. Now, The fourth term that we're going to look at, the fourth title, and what are the three you mentioned so far? Ahlus-Sunnah wal Jama'ah, Al-Hadith, Al-Athar. Okay, fourthly, Al-Firqa Al-Najiyah. Al-Firqa Al-Najiyah, the saved sect. The saved sect, meaning Al-Najiyah min al-Nar. They are the saved sect, meaning saved from the fire. And this comes from the narration in which the Messenger of Allah alayhi he spoke about the iftiraq al-ummah, or the splitting of the ummah. And he mentioned that all of the groups are going to be in the fire, illa wahida, except one of them. They are the jama'ah. And likewise, he mentioned that there are those who are upon the likes of what I and my companions are upon today. And other than that, from what has come in the various narrations of the hadith. And the Messenger of Allah, he is sadiq al-masduq. He is truthful and he is believed. Now, fifthly, al-ta'ifa al-mansura. Al-ta'ifa al-mansura, or the victorious group. The victorious group. This name as well is extracted from a narration. And that is the narration of Al-Mughira ibn Shu'bah, radiallahu anhu, who said that the Messenger of Allah said, alayhi salam, لا تزال طائفة من أمتي ظاهرين حتى يأتيهم أمر الله وهم ظاهرون. That there will not cease to be a ta'ifa, a group amongst my ummah, uppermost and victorious until the command of Allah comes while they are uppermost. Now, so they are known as a ta'ifa al-mansura based upon this narration. The sixth and final term that we're going to look at is as-Salafiyah or as-Salafiyun. As-Salafiyah or as-Salafiyun. An description, of course, to the Salaf. And the Salaf are the predecessors, of course. Now, and it is surprising in this day and time that people still have a problem with this term. Although some are deceptively using it, saying they're Salafi when they're not. Again, it's not about claims, it's about realities and what the people really are upon. And if they are really and truly upon the way of the Salaf and distinguished by way of that, then there's no harm in them referring to themselves as Salafi. Now, but at one point in time, there was a time in history, some of the older brothers may know, or if you tell a person you're Salafi, what? They'll run away from you. They run away from you. In this day and time, everybody claims to be it. Everybody claims to be it, even though they may not be. Even though they are upon other than what the Salaf were upon. So this term, Salaf, it is the plural of Salif. And the Salif is al-Mutaqaddim. It's the one that came before. It's the one that came before. Salaf al-Jama'ah al-Mutaqaddimun, and the Salaf, they are the Jama'ah, that group that came aforetime, like the Sahaba and those who follow them in excellence until the day of recompense. Al-Baghawi said, in explanation of the statement of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, فَجِعَلْنَاهُمْ سَلَفًا وَمَثَلًا لِلْآخَرِينَ. He says, so we made them, Allah Ta'ala says, so we made them to be Salafan. We made them to be Salafan and an example for the Akhirin, those who came later. Al-Baghawi said, وَالسَّلَفْ مَنْ تَقَدَّمَ مِنَ الْآبَاءِ. The Salaf are those who, they preceded from one's forefathers and the likes of that. So Allah Ta'ala is saying that we made them to be a precedent, and those who preceded, in order that the others, those who came later, can take an admonition and be upon what they were upon. Ibn Athir mentioned, Salaf al-insan man taqaddamahu bil-maut min abaihi. The Salaf of a person are those who died before him, from his forefathers and the likes. وَذَوِي قَرَابَتِهِ, and those who are related to him. And due to this, the first generation of the Tabi'een and the Sahaba are referred to as as-Salaf as-Salih. As-Salaf as-Salih. This is its linguistic meaning. This is a linguistic meaning. As for its meaning in the legislation, then what is intended by Salaf as-Salih? It is, of course, the Sahaba of the Messenger of Allah, alayhi as-salatu was-salam, and those who follow them in excellence until the day of recompense. And ascription to this term, Salaf, or calling oneself Salafi, we're familiar with the likes of the statements of Ibn Taymiyyah alayhi rahmatullah, who mentioned in Majmu' Fatawa, La Aiba ala man adhara madhhab as-salaf wa intasaba ilay wa ataza ilay, that there is no aib, there's nothing wrong, there's nothing at all wrong or no fault in a person ascribing and outwardly manifesting the madhhab of the salaf and attaching himself to it and honoring himself by way of that. Bal yajib qubul dhalika minhu. Rather, it is obligatory to accept that from him. A person is saying he's Salafi and he's actually trying to be upon the way of the Salaf, it's obligatory to accept that from him bittifaq, by way of consensus, by way of agreement. فَإِنَّ مَذْهَبَ السَّلَفِ لَا يَكُنْ إِلَّا حَقًّا. Because the madhab of the Salaf is nothing except the truth. It's Islam in its totality. It's Islam in its totality. He likewise said within Al-Hamawiyah on page 34, وَاعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ لَيْسَ فِي الْأَقْلِ الصَّرِيحِ وَلَا فِي شَيْءٍ مِنَ النَّقْلِ الصَّحِيحِ مَا يُوجِبْ مُخَالَفَةَ طَرِيقَ السَّلَفِيَّةِ أَصْلًا. He said, no, that there is nothing within sound and pure intellect, meaning anyone who has common sense, anyone who has an ounce of sense, there's nothing within sound and upright intellect, nor any authentic narration or text, anything that would necessitate opposing the way of the Salaf. No asl for it whatsoever. So we see the likes of the statements of this individual in South Carolina who said he challenges anybody, scholar or otherwise, to prove that it is anything but a bid'ah to call yourself Salafi. We say that that statement is a bid'ah. That statement is a bid'ah. Right? Not to call yourself Salafi is a bid'ah. To have a problem with calling yourself Salafi, that problem you have, that's the bid'ah. Because nobody ever had a problem with that. None of the ulama have a problem with it. Shaykh Abdul Muhsin al-Abbadi mentions, he said the person must be diligent in being a follower of the Sunnah by way of actions. As for if it is said to you, are you Salafi? Shaykh Abdul Muhsin said, yes. The person says, I am Salafi. If he says, are you from Ahlus-Sunnah? You say, yes, I am from Ahlus-Sunnah. And all the praise are for Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. As for mentioning this or saying this, if there's a need for that, it is applicable, it is actually true, then there's nothing wrong with this whatsoever. There's nothing wrong with a person referring to himself as Salafi whatsoever. Now, these are some of the appellations and names by way of which Ahlus-Sunnah are referred to and known. In fact, this is a good point for us to stop. Allah knows best. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وخير دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.